let's talk about miracles. I mean, what are they, really? Most of us, right, we think of them as these strange, almost sci-fi violations of the natural world. But what if we've been looking at them completely backward? In this explainer, we're going to flip the whole concept on its head.
You know, it really all comes down to this one single question. When something happens that science just can't explain, what is it? Is it a peek behind the curtain, a glimpse of a reality beyond our own? Or is it just a puzzle that we haven't figured out yet? How you answer that one question, well, it pretty much shapes your entire worldview.
And look, our perspective on this really boils down to one of two camps, one of two core worldviews. On one hand, you've got the naturalist worldview. This basically says what you see is what you get. The material world is all there is. And honestly, from that viewpoint, those huge questions about meaning, suffering, and hope, there were no easy answers. But then, on the other hand, you have the supernatural worldview. This one suggests there's a reality beyond what we can touch and see, and that reality infuses our lives, our actions, and even our suffering with this deep, eternal significance.
All right, so first up, let's really dig into that first idea. What are the consequences of living in a world that's only natural? A world with absolutely no room for the supernatural? Okay, this is going to sound a little dark, but stick with me. The philosopher Albert Camus, he put it this way. He said the greatest philosophical question we have is whether or not to kill ourselves every day. And what he's getting at is this. If you take away any hope of a world beyond this one, if suffering has no point and death is just the end, it can lead to this profound, crushing despair. Because without any built-in meaning, the question becomes, why bother? But what if there's a completely different way to look at all this? Let's actually challenge the very definition of what a miracle is and just see where that takes us. So here's the standard textbook definition. You know, the one we all kind of know from the dictionary. A miracle is an extraordinary event that can't be explained by natural or scientific laws, so we attribute it to God. It's something that breaks the rules, something that just shouldn't happen, but it does. So yeah, that's our baseline. That's what we all think of. Okay, now get ready for this, because this quote from the theologian Tim Keller, this is the key that unlocks a totally new perspective. He basically argues that we have it completely backwards. He says that we think of miracles as a suspension of the natural order, but Jesus meant for them to be the restoration of the natural order. See the difference? It's huge.
So here's the mind-blowing part of this idea. What if the things we think of as natural or normal, stuff like disease, decay, death, what if those are the actual invaders? In this view, our broken world isn't the original design. It's a corruption of it. And a miracle then? A miracle is a brief, powerful glimpse of the world as it was always meant to be. It's a return to its original, perfect factory settings, if you will.
Okay, so if miracles are all about restoration, that brings up a pretty big question, right? What exactly are they restoring us to? Let's take a look at the kind of future these events might be pointing toward. Now, according to the sources we're looking at, Jesus' miracles weren't just these random flashy displays of power. No, they had a very clear purpose. Think of them like signs pointing to something bigger. They were there to reveal God's character, to show his authority over creation, to restore what was broken, and to bring life from death itself. They acted as proof that the message was legit, and maybe most importantly, they were like a movie trailer, a sneak peek of a coming new creation. And that's what this next quote from Keller gets at so well. He says that Jesus' miracles aren't just a challenge to our minds, but a promise to our hearts. They're not meant to be just intellectual puzzles for us to solve. They're a promise, deep down, that the kind of world we all secretly want, one without pain and suffering and death, is actually coming. And here's the thing. This idea of miracles as restoration isn't some brand new concept. Actually, if you look back through history, you find something pretty amazing. Even the biggest critics, the people who were totally against Jesus, they didn't really deny that something extraordinary was happening.
I mean, take a look at ancient Jewish texts that were hostile to Christianity, like the Babylonian Talmud. It doesn't say Jesus didn't do these things. It couldn't. Apparently, the events were too widely known. So instead, they just relabeled them. They said he practiced sorcery. So they admitted something supernatural happened. They just argued about where the power came from.
And it's the exact same story with Roman critics like this guy Celsus. He didn't claim the stories were made up. Nope. He acknowledged the healings and other wonders, but tried to explain them away as just the tricks of jugglers, basically elaborate stage magic. So again, you see the pattern? The debate wasn't over if these things happened, but how they happened.
Okay, so let's fast forward to today, because this conversation is still going on even in the most scientific circles. Check this out. In surveys of over 1,000 physicians, we're talking doctors, people on the front lines of life and death, the results were kind of shocking. 55% said they had personally witnessed something they would call a medical miracle. And get this, even more, full 75% said they personally believe in miracles. That's from doctors.
So to bring all of these threads together, I want to end with one powerful, modern story that I think perfectly captures this whole theme of restoration.
Okay, so this is the story of Dwayne Miller. He was a pastor, and his entire career, his calling, was cut short when a degenerative disease just wrecked his vocal cords. It pretty much silenced him.
And from a medical standpoint, his situation was completely hopeless. I mean, he sought 63 different doctors, and the verdict was unanimous every single time. No cure, no procedure, no hope of recovery. His voice was only expected to get worse and worse for the rest of his life.
But then, 3 years after that devastating diagnosis, he was invited to try and speak at a church. And as he began to read from Psalm 103, a passage all about God's healing power, something absolutely incredible happened. His voice, live, right there in front of everybody, it just started to clear up. And at the exact moment he read the words, "He redeems my life from the pit," his voice was completely, totally, miraculously restored.
I mean, Dwayne Miller's story is just such a perfect modern example of what we've been talking about. This wasn't some random glitch in his biology, it was a restoration. It was him getting his voice back when it was broken. It was a clear, stunning foretaste of that future promise, the one where all things are made new.
So that leaves us with this final question to chew on. Are miracles just a strange interruption of our broken old world? Or are they something else entirely? Are they maybe an announcement? A beautiful, hopeful announcement of the new world that's on its way?